It's Monday morning and you have a big week ahead of you. There are all the appointments and meetings you have to book, getting in touch with that person who never got back to you, plus all the normal things that you have to get done in your business and personal life. And then there are all the inevitable yet still surprising aggravations that come up all too often throughout the week. Haven't even gotten out of bed yet, and already you can see the number of people you need to deal with growing bigger by the second. Why can't they just get the task done, schedule the meeting themselves, or at the very least let you know about the changes that need to be made before the last minute? Man, all this teamwork is just like it was in grade school. You end up doing all the work while everyone else slacked off. Well, maybe it's time to consider an approach from the biggest Boy Scout in comics, Batman. Wait, Batman's a Boy Scout, you're thinking? Yeah. You see, Superman's the one who's usually associated with the organization because of his moral stance, but it's Batman who really lives up to the Scout motto of be prepared. All right, you've gotten your stuff together. I'm already prepared, you think. And how does that piece of advice help me, oh great Bat Scout? There are different ways to be prepared, and while Batman is a master of having all sorts of equipment on him and knowing many different knots, the true genius of his preparation is in how he has prepared his mind, behavior, and life to deal with the unexpected. The stress, frustration, and anxiety we feel in response to unexpected events is a result of being unprepared for the surprise. It throws off our day, and because of that, we become angry with the situation. Well, yes, unexpected surprises are stressful because they're unexpected. How do you expect me to be prepared for that? Just because something is unexpected doesn't mean you can't anticipate it. Take, for example, a flat tire. How upset would you be to discover you have a flat? It can be very irritating, especially when you have somewhere to go. You may need to call a tow truck, or at least someone who can repair it. But because most car manufacturers anticipate that this is going to be an issue at some point, they give you a spare tire and the means to change out the flat. Now how aggravating is it? Something that could easily delay you an hour or more just became a 10 to 15 minute inconvenience. And if you carry a small air pump or a tire repair kit, that inconvenience just became even less. You can use this forward-thinking mindset in a number of ways, such as asking questions like, will this device I'm interested in need software that I'm not familiar with? Is it going to be compatible with my current devices? Is there something else I need to get? Understand that most companies, bureaucracies, and governments often do not work as intuitively as we would like, so being prepared with appropriate questions, even those that you think are obvious, is a good way to avoid hassles. Batman has gadgets, but he also knows how to ask the right questions. Well, okay, so maybe it's time I get an air pump for the car, but how does that help me with the people who dump problems on me? Well, being Bat prepared is a mindset that relies on answering the question, what is the worst thing that could likely happen, and what can I do to prevent that? Now, I want you to pay attention to those words. Worst likely. Not what is the worst thing that could happen? What is the worst likely? Batman is prepared for extreme scenarios, but unless you're going to be confronting similar situations to him regularly, that level of preparation is just going to lead to analysis paralysis and an overly negative view of life. Plan to realistic levels. Just like you can anticipate an eventual flat tire, you can anticipate issues in working with others. There are questions or holdups that are likely to occur, which you can either have the answers to in advance or you can find workarounds. If you've interacted with the person in question before, you probably know the actions they're going to take. For example, a number of healthcare clinics, the staff know that their clients will often forget that they have an appointment. If the office is particularly savvy, the staff will ask what is the best time and method to get in touch with the client. When someone does have to cancel, the clinic has a wait list so the time is still used productively. If a patient is in the habit of being late, the clinic staff will do things such as scheduling the patient into narrower time slots or have other work to be done, or simply drop the patient altogether. You can implement similar strategies when working with others. When other people drop stuff off on you on the last minute, let them fail when possible. Just because you're a hero does not mean that you have to be a doormat for inconsiderate people. Now, this leads to the other aspect of why we often feel upset by these unexpected surprises. It's because we realize in hindsight what we should have done, and worse, we've probably encountered something like this before. So once you've cooled down enough from the frustration of yet another situation throwing off your day, you can see how you might prevent it or mitigate it and keep it from happening again. You can calmly and firmly set and enforce your expectations. One of the better examples I have is I've lived with a guy who was terrible at communicating when events around the property would occur. And these events directly affected me, and he was just too oblivious to realize that telling me in advance would be a good idea. So finally, I went to him after the latest incident and said that we needed to work out something so this didn't happen again. By being direct and refraining from chewing him out, I was able to get what I needed, and he at least started to give me some warning. And this leads to another point which ties into preparedness: getting your ego out of the way. Now, this is more a factor in persuasion, but when we allow ourselves to get caught up in our own egos, when we are getting in our own way and thinking of how things should be, we're really failing to assess the realities of the situation. While my roommate was clueless, he wasn't intentionally being malicious. If I had verbally raked him across the coals, much as he deserved it, my living situation would have been negatively affected. So, by focusing on a solution instead of just speaking my frustration, I was able to get what I wanted, and I didn't end up shooting myself in the foot. Getting your ego out of the way also allows you to look at situations as they are and avoids all of the shoulds. My roommate should have told me a day in advance when some maintenance guy is going to come by. It's incredibly likely that he wouldn't unless I asked him about it directly. And yeah, while it's annoying that I had to show more foresight and courtesy than him, it's easier to ask about events than it is to get angry when someone shows up without notice. Setting rules and boundaries is a great way of being Batman prepared. When people know what to expect from you, they start treating you better, or at the very least, bothering you less. My roommate constantly slept in, on top of the fact that he didn't tell me about maintenance people coming by. So I was often the one who had to deal with this maintenance person when they showed up unexpectedly in the morning. And after a few unwelcome surprises of this, not only did I tell him that we needed to start figuring out something to avoid this and getting me notice, but I also would make sure that he would be the one to deal with them. I would make sure that I had other things going on and be out of the way. So if he's going to work with them, it's going to be him who has to deal with them. Being too rigid, though, will make troubles for you, as people will be less likely to come to you for anything. But you may be able to do similar things to what I did with my roommate and have appropriate measures. When you set some rules for yourself and others, such as what you will and won't tolerate, and how you're going to convey your expectations, and what actions you're going to take to correct a situation, and when you're going to take such actions, your life starts to get easier. You can prevent a lot of trouble by heading it off at the start. Well, that's all well and good, but I can't exactly discipline my boss or coworkers or other people in my life, so how am I supposed to deal with these rude pricks, is what you might be thinking. Here's where preventative questions are your friend, especially if you add a time constraint to them. Towards the end of the day, ask your boss or coworker, is there anything you want me to start on first thing tomorrow? Now, this will make you look like a diligent and thoughtful worker and a good team player, but it also places in the other person's mind the idea of tomorrow. Another line you could use would be, we seem to be getting a lot of last-minute jobs the past few days or weeks. What can I do to stop this so we both get home on time? You avoid blaming the other person, and you get them on board with finding a solution. Well, okay, but these jerks are really inconsiderate as all get out. Why am I being nice to them? They're supposed to be my peers and seniors, you might be thinking. And I have certainly had that thought before, and you're right. You shouldn't have to be nice in the face of such rudeness. But that's a should. It's not the reality. Actions you take, even those in frustration, reflect your character. Use your actions to further your goals and development. You're the one choosing to be a hero, not them. You hold yourself to higher standards regardless of how others treat you. And yeah, while the level of selfish and inconsiderate behavior in many professional and personal relationships is disturbing to say the least, by being prepared, you will limit the amount of frustration in your life. In the words of Robert Greene, who wrote the book The Laws of Human Nature, see people as facts of nature. They come in all varieties, like flowers or rocks. There are fools and saints and sociopaths and egomaniacs and noble warriors. There are the sensitive and the insensitive. They all play a role in our social ecology. There's no point in getting angry with a rock for being a rock, especially when you can use it to build something. When you maintain composure, when you adapt to adversity, and still manage to work towards your goals? Are you really getting pushed around? But the people I'm around are really rude. If I tried your lines, they would still walk all over me, some of you might be thinking. Well, try the lines first, and at the very least, you will get to tell me I told you so if you prove me wrong. If you're right, and there's just no way to get them to act like respectful human beings, then at the risk of sounding condescending, start looking for a way out of that relationship. Your life and time are too valuable to waste it on people who will not respect you. If they have no actual power over you, then I recommend directly and calmly, but firmly, setting boundaries with clear consequences if they breach them. Now, one last way you can use Batman preparedness to your advantage is by anticipating arguments. When you're looking to persuade someone, look at your argument through your audience's eyes. What questions are they going to ask? What points are they going to care about most? What common values and interests can you speak to? To emphasize this, I want to make sure this is clear. You have to look at the argument through your audience's eyes. What you would do in their place may be completely different from what they would do. When you're trying to persuade someone, think about what would work on them, not you. You're more heroic and show greater character and get closer to your goals when you think about the other people involved and act accordingly. And when you take that mindset, it's going to help you with arguments, getting dates, and even attracting customers. So, in conclusion, by anticipating the actions of those he works with and fights against, as well as coming prepared for a variety of likely scenarios, Batman is able to accomplish feats that normally require superpowers, and he does this with nothing more than his wits. When you apply these principles to your own life, you will achieve similarly heroic feats. Every day counts. Be the hero you are, and have a great week.